Welcome, 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 brothers. Welcome, sisters. Welcome to our program On Target. And as we start this program, you can pick up a telephone and give us a call. We never have a subject matter. We speak about anything. Politics, religion, socioeconomic issues, issues trending, any topical issue of the day. But most important, you can introduce your own subject matter. The number to call is 442-0175. We are on RealFM 91.9. We have our Facebook page, RealFM Facebook page, and we also on YouTube. So you can contribute and participate. You are always welcome. Your contributions are highly appreciated. You do not have to agree with us. We form our opinion on any matter once you are comfortable with the topic. And if we have new information, we change in our opinion. We encourage people to stick with the truth as much as it is possible. Sometimes when you're speaking, and particularly if you're very passionate about a subject matter, sometimes you sex up the truth or expand it, but we encourage people to be just simply deal with the truth. It's always better. This country is a nice country. We have a lot good going for us in Grenada. We must never forget that. Electricity, telephone, water, internet is better than most countries in the Caribbean. Better than most. Second to none. In addition to that, we have one of the best network of roads in the region. And the quality of the roads are relatively good, irrespective of all the complaints and nagging you hear. We criticize our health system a lot. But sometimes I believe the health system is much better than the amount of blows it gets. Our education system, we have low productivity. This is annoying, and we must be man enough to address it. But government spend 11% of the GDP on education, and the teacher-to-children ratio in Grenada is about 1 teacher to about 15 children. So the system is not overloaded. We could do better. Grenada have the most land owners in the region. And over the last 10, 12, 15 years, we double the amount of vehicles that we have in Grenada. To the extent now that we have increasing accidents. It could be as a result of the based upon the number of vehicles we have. But in 2017, the police also said ill discipline, disrespect contributed to accidents. We must deal with this issue. So we have a lot good going for us. We have challenges, and we must deal with it. Today, I believe the Prime Minister of Grenada has decided to remove his Minister of Finance. I applaud him. That is very good of the Prime Minister. The Minister of Finance is the worst Minister of Finance that we have had in Grenada in recent times, or post-1983. He presented his first budget. I hope that is the last budget he ever present. And the budget was a disaster to people in the lower income group. It benefited some people, and there was a clear line of demarcation in the budget where the Prime Minister was hostile to people in the lower income group at all levels. He removed $150 from the elderly and the physically challenged people. He didn't just remove it, so he set them up. The Minister of Social Affairs told them in December that they were going to get the money. And in January, less than a month later, she changed her mouth and had people go into the line and shed tears. And then we had some of the stalwarts of the National Democratic Congress rejoicing, and making some of the most derogative comments that I heard, void of compassion and empathy. The Minister of Finance spread shock into the minds of people in the Imani, because after a meeting with them, they informed them, if you're 35 years and over, you're likely to lose your job. You have to go. The same set of people that was promised to be made permanent. So the minister, removing the minister 9 months after he placed in government, is timely. What is sad, what is unfortunate, and what would go down in history permanently is he met a budget, he met a treasury that they describe as pregnant. They were so satisfied with money left in the treasury that in a worst case scenario, for 4 months, Grenada would have able to not to have to send people home. As a result of the budget, they fired people that work with the sauce-up industry. The people involved in pest management. In one of our agriculture export industry that bringing over 10 million US in 1 year to a small economy. And I am left baffled, wondering if a minister of agriculture that spent years in agriculture is sabotaging the source-up industry. Caller, you're welcome. Caller, you're welcome. All right, caller, just call back. We lost you. And he left me baffled and wondering. But knowing the track record of the National Democratic Congress, I'm not surprised. The workers on Paradise Estate that was visited by the minister and the permanent secretary, they compliment them. They told them they was doing a good job. Then they fired them. It seems that the National Democratic Congress, when they engage the ordinary man, they set them up. Make them feel good. Tell them the estate is identified for marijuana, that they're going to legalize marijuana. And then the next thing the people know, while they're laughing and rejoicing, they are fired. The government is extremely hostile towards people in the lower income group. And I do hope that this new Minister of Finance going to have a rude awakening and immediately return the $150 that was violently removed from the people in the lower economic strata. It's not the first time that the National Democratic Congress is going after the most vulnerable in our society. In 1990, the same thing was done. They fired the people in the estates, including Shotty. You see, I say these things because a number of them like to doubt. So I want them to go and research the facts. They know that in 2008, although they advertised the use of elderly man in the most indecent manner to advertise that $450 will be given to the people in that group. And they had the man being taunted by other people and die. Instead of that, they remove people. And I always say 5 people from Paraclete was removed from the program. two of the women are still alive. One is 100 years, and one of the representatives from the NDC had the opportunity to be in her company on 100 years birthday. Those are the truth. So I do hope the new Minister of Finance, who have been in the Ministry of Finance before, who have been in structural adjustment before, I do hope he will remove himself from the maze and return the $150. Yes, caller, punch. Yes, caller. Caller, we got you? Yeah, when you call the program, you always have to turn down your radio because it screeches. So please try and call again. I know sometimes people want to, other people in the close vicinity and want to hear the program, but you have to try to. Yes, caller, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, my caller, thank you.
Mr. Pierre, looking at the historical background of the NDC, the Grenadian people know that the NDC, is very, the policy towards the fiscal policy towards the low-income bracket people in this country, is always going the wrong way. And our people, the low-income bracket people, suffers tremendously. The fine of jobs, the 150 removal on the senior citizen package, the people with disability, the special needs, and even the children, the needy school children, and so on. No empathy for the poor people, you have to see, the working class people. And when you move around the country, you hear the cry. You see how it's painful. And we all know that the governments of the GOLP and the NNP, you never see the type of suffering in this country, and there's no bones about that. And this administration could change the Minister of Finance 100 times. That won't change the price of coffee unless they change the fiscal performance of the economy and put an injection in the economy so the economy could move and the poor people of this country will get the benefits and so on. And Mr. Pierre, in my history, I never saw Sir Eric Matugeri taking the Ministry of Communication Works. The Right Honorable Dr. Keith Mitchell, as Prime Minister, never took that ministry. Mr. Tillman Thomas never took that Ministry of Communication and Works. So what's going on? So the bottom line is the people of Grenada have to see and know and understand where is the course, where are we heading for, and look, we're talking about the talents of our young stars at the intercall and so on and going to school. It bleeds my heart to see our poor parents sometimes right now don't even have a meal, a job to help the children go back to school. It's not easy, Mr. Pierre. And it's not that a grandstanding, but I'm asking our people to be concerned and you know what to do when the time comes. Thank you. Have a good day.
Yes, caller, thank you. I think the NNP as a party did not educate the people enough on the policies of the National Democratic Congress. If you have an opponent going after you, and it seems to be consistently aggressive to low-income group, the NNP had a responsibility to educate them. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Fair, good.
Yes, caller, welcome.
When you check the records of ministers of finance under NMP, under NDC, and even under the GLP, I could say the minister under NMP, they did a wonderful job. Because there was minister of finance understand the need and the concern of the greener people, especially the less fortunate. So that's why they put policies in place to reach out and help the less fortunate people of the country. When you look at what is happening under the Minister of Finance, under NDC, you had the Minister of Finance in 2008, which was Nazenberg, which would have gone out as the worst Minister of Finance that passed in Grenada. But now we have one command surpass that record, which is the Prime Minister presently. What he did is people that work and deserve to get this, work hard for them and deserve to get this money, they refuse to pay them. The faith-based workers, they refuse to pay them. Look again, the people that support was getting the seed money, the poor are needed. People who may sacrifice to help develop the country, bring the country where it is at present. What instead, he had more he take out. And he was on a program saying that giving these people, the seed people, people who are getting the 350 and the 450, that's the World Bank say that keeping people in poverty. So everybody was saying that. Everybody was expecting he to raise it up from 350 to 5 or 6 to 650 or even more. But what he did, he removed 150 from everybody who was getting. So $300, you end up getting 150. Who are getting 450, they end up getting $300. So how you could say you're concerned and care what people pay, and you're doing that to poor people? And while you're doing that, you're enlarging and you're helping the business people. The poor people who are making a sacrifice to pay the VAT on things. What you're asking the business people to do, the money that's supposed to come back to the government, you're telling the business people and take it and don't give the government. So when you tell them to take it and don't give the government, how are the government generating revenue? That means the government will losing more money. We get that money the business people collecting. It's not the money, it's the government money. So if the government collects money, they can help cushions to certain area to assist and to help the poor people. Alright? Now I want to understand and say, and as work, when you are finance, yes, he did a bad job. I do believe right now that one surpass him. It surpass him. It is worse. Let's hope that new Minister of Finance will do better. We do better and seek the interest not only of the higher class of people, because of the poor people. It's the poor people that generate money. When you give rich people money, Mr. Pierre, they save, they put the money in the bank. Even if you check the pension, people who get pension, the seniors, they don't spend money in the online. That money stay in the bank. Right? But when you give the poor, put more money in the poor class of people in the country, they are the one who have the country going. So that's my.
Yes, scholar, thank you. And I think sometimes I'm amazed, The NDC has deceived even their own supporters and a lot of stalwarts of the NNP. The Grenada presently don't have a serious money problem, Because based upon the government budget, it appears that the government would get the money for the budget. They're making a lot of money in the sale of passports. The problem is the philosophy of the NDC. So even some people that defending the NDC is against them. Yes, scholar, welcome. Yes, scholar, welcome.
Mr. Pierre, how you do?
Great, man.
Mr. Pierre, did you have a chance to listen to this post conference today?
I only listened to a little on the run while the Prime Minister was speaking and they was asking him 1 or 2 questions.
Right. So I listened to this whole thing, and three things stick out to me from that post cabinet meeting there. One, a journalist asked, I think she asked the Prime Minister about the bi-monthly salary payment and stuff like that, and he directed the question to the permanent secretary. And like I always say, Grenadians, listen carefully to what these people are saying. This PS basically said they were in discussions with some of the banks and money lending institutions, and in regarding with loans and stuff. When you get paid on a fortnight, it's basically you will have more money, like you get money more frequently. And if you had to pay a loan, you'll be paying a loan faster, right? The journalist asked the gentleman, well, how that could be? Basically, she said, well, how that could be when your salary hasn't changed? You're not paying more. You've been paying basically the same money, but it's twice. So if your salary is $1,000, you'll be getting $500 in a fortnight and $500 in a month. So your salary is basically the same. This man dodged around that question, and I was looking for her to get a second job at that particular question, because trust me, I want to hear how they explain that to me. Because the surrogates and the people that they are really talking will not explain that. And that to me is deceitful to the Ghanaian people. Secondly, the Minister of MIT, Mr. Andy Williams, Honorable Andy Williams, he said that they have a procurement team in place to go in villages and organize to do jobs and stuff. And he blatantly said that their problem is not getting loans or getting monies for projecting. It's to implement the projecting. And he made that statement today. And that question was in connection with the Molyneux Road. He even go as far as to say it is not as easy as it looks in it. These are the things that we don't listen to as Grenadians. Well, I listened to it, and I'll pick it to it. And I was thinking that the journalists who were there would have asked more pertinent questions. I heard a journalist ask the Prime Minister, my God, I will give him that one. She asked the Prime Minister, as Minister of National Security, if he knows how many illegal guns are there in the country. What kind of question is that? If he had known that, there would have not been any illegal guns in the country. So these journalists, they are nitpicking. I'm telling you.
What's about the question about now, sir? Are you asking the Prime Minister?
you know, I mean, these, right, so there you go, Mr. Pierre. And then again, lastly, before I go, I thought the journalists would have asked the permanent Secretary of Ministry of Finance, when the new Minister of Finance is being appointed, well, as of yesterday, what will be his position, and isn't that nepotism? But that question wasn't asked.
No,
but I will leave it there for now.
Yes, scholar, thank you.
Have a good day.
I think a number of the NNP, politicos, and political activists does not understand the philosophy of the National Democratic Congress. What you're doing as if you're surprised now. The National Democratic Congress have always been hostile against the people in the lower income group, hostile in the tax policy, hostile in the verbal attacks, hostile in the implementation approach. They have always been hostile against this group. Go back in history. Even some members of the NDC who are active, when I engage them and I listen to them, I always ask the question, what would happen to your family if you fall sick today and you don't have your income? Because they're always giving some impression that them is heavy and they don't vulnerable. I always ask the question, are you paying personal income tax? More often than not, they're not paying personal income tax. And I have to remind them, you're in the low income group. And as soon as, and the NDC policy is not supportive of you because they consider you as a cult. This is the language they're using. They say the previous government created a cult. People with dependency syndrome. This is the dismissive attitude and expressions that is so common among the National Democratic Congress. While they get scholarship to go and study, free education, and to get a batch, government must really tell the public how much money they spend for an individual, the average, to get between a bachelor's, a master's, a doctorate. Sometimes up to $500,000 for one person. And when that person come back, they got an opportunity. They got free education. But they turn it around and look at the people who work all their life and say, these people lazy. They're depending on government. People spent over 60 years. Let them go and pound stone in the river. Why they don't work? They're drinking rum with the money. After these people get over $500,000 to get an education, and some of them don't even come back and work in the country. Something is wrong with a system like that. Pope John Paul once said, we cannot invest in tertiary education at the expense of primary and secondary education. Let me immediately explain that. He did not say don't invest, not at the expense. So if we are taking millions of dollars and we're giving people tertiary education, we expect them to come back and help to change the country. But the people who come back in Grenada with a master's degree and a bachelor's degree, they abscond the communities and they're treating people who did not have an opportunity with total contempt. How that could be right? I asked the question 1,000 times, how could it be right? Government invests in education. The teachers who are in school, they are more educated today or more certificated than any other time in our history. They are better trained and better paid than any other time in our history. The school environment, the physical structure of our schools today are better than any other time in our history. The aids, the gadgets, the support system in schools today, the audio are better than any other time in our history. You have more auxiliary staff than any other time in our history. Yet, the productivity level is unacceptable and wanting. And then we pile a heap of scorn on those who are less fortunate. We take the word vulnerable for a joke. And even people who are vulnerable fighting not to be classified in that group. Now, how your country is going to improve? With that type of attitude, chiefly propagated by the NDC. Let me repeat that. That type of culture and attitude is chiefly propagated, mainly propagated by members of the National Democratic Congress. Now, how are you going to improve your country? You're going to have more social decay. Now you have a government that is so insensitive to the elderly, the physically challenged, and disadvantaged children. In 2023, that not ought to be. You expect a government to seek the interests of these groups. Even the people in the business sector doesn't necessarily support the government policy, you know. They will benefit from the government policy. And every time the government come in power, they take action to get this group to benefit. For instance, this time, they dropped the tax on freight back, I think, to 1919 level. They gave tax break to individuals. They announced they're going to increase the price of alcohol months before. So the businessman, any good businessman, will make use. They will make economic use of that information. You think that is accident? That is done by design. So every time the government come in power, they immediately do things to enhance the coffers of the businessmen. But what eventually they cause contracting of the economy. So some business don't really agree with that. But because Grenada business are not very dynamic, we have a kind of family business here. So they benefit immensely. And when the next government come, they don't bother to pay much tax. Because they know when the NDC come, they're going to get a break. Now this is the NDC. The NNP have failed to explain the economic policies of the NDC to the people. I think the only minister in NNP that did an extremely good job of that is Dr. Kit Mitchell. Go back and look the margin by which he won election. Examine the margin by which Dr. Kit Mitchell won election in relationship to all the other ministers. There are some things we must look for, you know. Grenada, the OECS must guard against these loafers in politics and neophytes. We have had the experience of a revolution. We had Eric Gary. Now we have the experience of a bunch of neophytes that is very weak in institutional knowledge, that is arrogant, and we have the experience of them. And they're likely to bring this economy to ruin, or, as the Attorney General say, irreparable damage. We can't sit down and say we cannot be absolved from responsibility. You know. All of us is guilty. We know what the NDC is. But this time we have a pure form of the NDC, a bitter, angry, vengeful group that is highly insensitive even to elderly people. How are you going to get productivity in an economy like that? If you go wrong and set up a ministry of victimization, and you're going through the ministries victimizing people. Yes, caller, welcome.
Yes, Mr. Pierre. Mr. Pierre, the reason why he give up finance, the money made they finish, and he can't handle that. So he putting somebody inside it now to stand the blame. But they could jump high, they could jump low, they getting 15 again. Thank you.
You see, the Prime Minister was a disaster in finance. And the best, I have to compliment the Prime Minister for recognizing that the Minister of Finance is a waste of time, is a fake, is a disaster, has done a bad job in finance to the detriment of the economy. And the best thing he could do is to give it to anybody else. Dennis Cornwall is a good pick. Lennox Andrew is another good pick. But it doesn't matter who. I believe any member of the team would have done a better job than the Minister of Finance. So I want to applaud the Prime Minister for getting rid of the Minister of Finance from the Minister of Finance. And I do hope that the present Minister of Finance would immediately return the $150, would immediately return the money to the elderly and the physically challenged. That would indicate that the Minister of Finance have the capacity to be sensitive to the marginalized in our country. The attitude of the NDC to the lower income group is going to devastate the economy. It's going to give rise to social decay. It's going to contribute to children in the school being less productive. And it's going to further continue to low production in the ministry. Most of the workers that is employed with the government in the ministries, the government policy is going to affect their pocket. And the government victimization program is going to cause low productivity. You don't have to, we live in a small country. NDC and NNP lying on the same bed, husband and wife. And the government policy is going to affect a number of NDC individuals in the lower income group because it's a policy. It's a taxation policy. It's an attitude, it's DNA. Look at the verbal policy, the verbal attacks from people in the political activists or social media warriors and ministers, even ministers. We the good people, the Minister of Finance, we the good people. In Parliament, we the good people. My friend Willie, we the good people. The Minister of Agriculture, lunatics and idiot. The Attorney General laughing when people lose their job. Is the whole policy of all of them. So I do hope that Dennis Cornwall, I hope that he is not completely radicalized and recognizing now the role of the Minister of Finance. He might go back to the days when he was humble enough to be a worker, an employee of the Ministry of Finance, and would change his attitude. Because you know what is deceitful about the National Democratic Congress? Every time they win election, is because they was able to convince people of the lower income group to support them. Every time. Obviously, they make promises. They promise to give the money $1,000. They promise to give the elderly $450. They promise to seek the interests of agriculture, and they win election. And in 2022, they say there is no need for a parallel public service. And such, they promise to make everybody prominent. They say it was illegal. They say it was lawless. And they say it was very easy to do by the stroke of a pen. It means they just had to go to cabinet and take a policy decision. So they make this wild, outrageous, attractive promise. And they got people in droves. And immediately, they start to bad manage the economy. You know, this is the reality. You took $70+ million and you give it away to people who legally entitled to get it, but the manner in which you do it was counterproductive to the economy. But in addition to that, your policies of vengeance, as the Prime Minister put it, restorative justice, contributed to thousands of people losing their job. It could well be over 1,500, or perhaps as much as 2,000 people lost the job that they had. In a small economy we have, what do you expect to happen? You contract the economy. Cost of living was high, but the government contributed to the cost of living by raising the price on water. The government had no right to interfere with water. You raise the price of water, you interfere with the price of sugar. And these commodities are the one who are affected the most by these commodities. But while you did that, you make sure and cut the income of the elderly, the physically challenged, disadvantaged children. But the government did that before in 2008. You cut money paid to road workers. The NDC have a history of doing that. One of my regular individual participating on my program, Onisto, as if he can go and do the research on Onisto. The NDC have a history. Every time they come in power, they're hostile to people in the lower income group. The manner in which they refer to them is very dismissive. And we have a lot of people in the lower income group. They want to give people the impression that they're not in the lower income group. And that's why when I like to engage them, because I always ask them, and if I ask you how much you're working for in Grenada, it's because I have a very good idea what you're working for. You know? So I believe the new Minister of Finance, we have to applaud the Prime Minister for recognizing that he had to fire the Minister of Finance. He done good. It doesn't matter where he put him. It doesn't matter to me. We'll see what he does in our other ministry. But I hope Dennis Cornwall remember what happened when he was an employee of the Minister of Finance, and that might evoke a little bit of sensitivity in him for all the people who have lost their job. The women of Carriacou that the government fired for, they were politically victimized. And the women of Paul's and all the other workers involved in different areas, the caregivers, after the Minister of Social Affairs gave the parliamentary representative the word that she will employ them, now she firing them one by one. And they're threatening them, you know. One of them even afraid to call me on the phone. She said somebody tell her pap they tap my phone. So she come in a crowd to whisper to me. I tell her don't bother about tap phone, man. When you're speaking the truth, you don't waste time about that. You just deal with the truth. And you don't bother. And that's a challenge we have in our society. I do hope that during this period of Holy Week, during this period of Lent, we are Easter people. It's about resurrection. And the majority of Grenadians are Christians. I do hope something would touch the NDC during this period of time. And they may have a change of heart. They may have a change of policy. They might recognize that what they're doing is going to affect not only people who they don't like or support, but it is not in their political interest. When they have done that in the past, they have paid the price for it. And what they are doing now, by disadvantaging people in the lower income group and treating them as if they're not good people, so some people, all of a sudden, some people in grade are good and some not good people. You know, they may recognize that the attitude would not cause increase in production in the ministries. It would backfire. Entrenching political victimization could contribute to serious fallouts in the schoolhouse. Because you may well find some of our teachers turning the political attention to students in the school. We can't close our eyes. Look at what is going on in Jamaica. Look what is going on in St. Lucia. Look at the level of crime and violence in Trinidad. But if you don't believe me, go in the mental institute in Grenada. Yes, caller, welcome.
Afternoon, Mr. Pierre.
Yes, caller, welcome.
Yeah, you real pray and ask God for what you wanted, what you needed, and you get it. The Minister of Finance must go.
Yes, ma'am.
I realize you real pray for that. God is good.
Yes, they say if you seek, you shall find.
Exactly,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
You so sweet, Mr. Pierre, you don't know.
Thank you.
You take care.
Yes.
You know my mother, I know Vinda was my mother.
Yes, and yeah. Thank
All
you.
right. So you take care.
You see, we have to sit down and try to be analytic as possible. And I always believe that I have chastised the Bar Association more than anyone in this country. These people are generally well educated. And in terms of economy, perhaps lawyers are the highest paid in Grenada as a group. You have some lawyers that catching the hell. They're not doing too well. But generally, lawyers are the highest paid, and lawyers are generally well educated. So the Bar Association must speak on issues. The Grenada Trade Union Council, they must speak on issues. I don't blame individual trade union leaders for not bothering with other people. They only seek the interests of their members. But as an organization, there are some issues of the economy that would transcend your membership. If the economy in Grenada is in trouble, the unions are in trouble. Look at what's going on in France today. You have a lot of union demonstration and upheaval in France because of the pension. So when issues are going on in Grenada, this organization have a duty, a moral obligation to speak out. You ought not to have this level of sensitivity and aggressiveness and hostility against the poor of the poor in Grenada and the Bar Association shutting them out. I don't agree with that. The trade union shut them out. I don't agree with that. Civic group and organization. And when I expect my brother Willie to speak, he get radicalized. He want to jump on this neophyte train going down San Fernando. Can I agree with that? You cannot claim that you are the only strategic export and public policy analyst in the whole OECS. And then you're talking about really good people. No, that don't make no sense. And I believe that people who are well educated, tertiary educated, people who are successful, people who consider themselves is it, then you must be in the forefront of the developmental struggle in this country. You ought to be in the forefront. You cannot abandon the elderly. You cannot abandon the weak. You cannot abandon the disadvantaged children in our country. You have to speak up for them. If you don't, according to T.U.C. Kawana, you go feel it in your belly. Look at St. Lucia today. They're crying out because of acts of violence. Jamaica, a number of communities over 2 years running with state of emergency. Trinidad. And don't believe that all of us didn't contribute to the problems that exist. All of us contribute. Because we believe we're in a higher social class. We hoity-toity. We penging. And we abandon our neighbors. We did not help our neighbors. But we neighbors have to survive. So I do hope some NDC moderates, because there are moderates in NDC, would ask Dennis Connell to return the $150 to these individuals, to cease and desist firing the people, to make new jobs. Make new jobs. The NNP was noted after 2008 period election, 2013. 3,000 Imani, road wardens, traffic wardens, health wardens, caregivers, Project Fly, you name it. All creek and corner of Grenada, the government was finding opportunities to employ people. When the Caribbean Development Bank and the ECCB and other financial institutions speak about Grenada in glowing terms, businessmen feel confident. They want to expand. They will employ more people. They take more risk because they feel a sense of confidence. But when in the beginning of the year, a prime minister make words to the effect that Grenadians must ban their belly, you contracting the economy. You're causing the economy to contract. Within 9 months, over 1,500 workers lost their job. And that is workers you told that you would make them permanent. You threaten the money. They're walking on ice. I like that term. The girl tell me they're walking on ice. I forgot to ask her if she get paid. I know on the 24th of the month, she did not get paid. She did not get February money on the 24th of April. She tell me she walking on ice. Because she have 2 children. She say I'm walking on ice. I'm going to work early. I live in last. I don't say nothing. I'm walking on ice. That is the kind of attitude that brings sometimes pleasure to the face of some of the NDC stalwarts. As they see people unemployed, they follow in the lead of the Minister of Labor. They follow in the dismissive way in which the Prime Minister spoke about the faith workers that he refused to pay. But in the same vein, they could travel and spend about $1 million now for just traveling. Traveling with your spouse and all. So it's not a question that the country don't have money. It's a question of the aggressive policy. Yes, caller, welcome. It's a question of the aggressive policy of the National Democratic Congress. The number to call is 4420175, and you could call us. And remember, you speak on any topic, and you can speak about anything. This caller saying the PM already fulfilled his campaign promise he made in finance. How he needs to work on something structure of the country. He promised during the election. So, Mr. Pierre, that's transformation. That's one of the callers that he normally write on Facebook on a phony name, and he don't have a profile. He can't call me because I'm going to know who he is, and he writes this thing. The Prime Minister said it is not transformation, it is restorative justice. And I am asking to disband MIT. Yes, caller, welcome.
Mr. Pierre,
yes,
one of your callers, a gentleman, he called, right? And as a matter of clarity, maybe you don't quite understand. The secretary, when they had the press conference this morning, he did indicate when being asked about reducing your loan quicker. The gentleman, whatever the secretary name is, he was correct, because if you apply money to your loan frequently instead of like once a month, it means that your principal is going to be broken down quicker, because your interest is calculated on your principal. So maybe the gentleman who spoke with you in conversation, he doesn't quite understand that. But the press secretary is correct when he says that. So if your bank says, or your credit union says, that you make $500 towards your loan every month, and it's going to finish in 5 years' time, if for you start paying your loan the same $500, but you break it down twice monthly, in actual fact, you are going to finish a little bit faster, not significantly, but a little bit quicker, because your principal, each time the interest is applied, your principal would have been broken down a little bit more rather than it.
That is if the interest is on the reducing principal.
Right. So
but if it's not,
interest is on the reducing
if the
principal,
interest is on the reducing principal.
right. So if you apply the payment twice a month, then your principal your interest calculated on your principal is obviously going to be a little bit lower.
But most of the banks don't put interest on reducing principal.
Don't they?
No.
I thought that was what
the
they
credit
did. No,
union
right.
might do that. No, most of them don't do that. And the permanent secretary ought to know that. They
Really?
don't put
I
interest on reducing principal.
No, they calculate the interest upfront.
But not on the
From the time
reducing
you get the loan.
principal.
I thought they
No,
kinda
they
had
don't do
stopped
that.
doing that.
So even though you pay 4 times a month, it doesn't mean you're paying less.
I
Unless
think it could
you're
happen,
paying
Mr. Pierre.
additional.
Maybe we need to find out more
No,
about that, right?
and that is where intellectuals, I take strong objection to them when they make these statements like that.
No,
the
but I
PS
think
knows.
someone in the financial sector who actually works within a financial sector, I think they could clarify that.
The
I think it
PS
can
knows.
happen.
The PS knows.
I mean, it's a long time I've been in that
Yes,
sector.
but the PS knows. He knows that.
Huh?
There are some, you could get the interest on the reducing principal. I don't know if the credit unions also may do that. But there are some financial institutions, it is not on the reducing principal.
Yeah.
So if you're paying 4 times a month, it doesn't mean, unless you're paying more than what is required.
What it has to be already.
Unless you're paying more than what you are required to pay.
I don't know. Maybe that's something I would really.
Yeah, please
find
out.
More,
But anyone from the Ministry of Finance, they know that. Yeah?
But
so when they make this
if the principle is that your interest is going to be applied to your principal, if you pay it more than once a month or however frequently, it's definitely going to break down your principal.
All right, thank you, caller.
So
we
your
come to
loan
the
will be paid before.
Thank you, caller.
All right.
We come to the end of the program, and we will be back with you again tomorrow, Wednesday, and between 12 and 1. Remember that it's Holy Week. Pay some attention to the benefits of it, and try to encourage your children to be cognizant of the benefits, the beneficial aspect of Holy Week, whether you're a Catholic or not. Thank you very much.